Welcome, kids. Hey, thanks for coming. And it's always wild, and I always feel like I'm very unprepared, even though I try to try to prepare. Things always go until the last minute. You know how it is. So I have to, I guess, say up front, while I had never intended to make this in any way, as you guys know, about my my perilous health journey. There's always things going on. So, and it's a part of why I've been away for a while. Also, part of why I haven't been as consistent as I'd like to be. And so, just a note early on as we begin. I am right now, because of I think I mentioned before, the weirdness that they changed my insurance without really telling me, and my doctor resigned, and so it's a whole mess to try to figure it out, get it fixed. But in the interim, I've run out of medications. Some of those being the things that help keep me from vomiting, which is one of the big problems. So without that, I guess I'll just say that without it, I don't have any chance. And so there's always a chance that I'll have to just end the stream early and run. And I apologize for that. And I'm sorry for being kind of, overly graphic. That's just the way it is. But we won't focus on that. Hey, how are you? Welcome for, see, everybody leaves when I talk about that. But anyway, hey, thanks for coming. And I wanted to, I've been, preparing a bunch of stuff, because I've been promising to do, going through the Book of Revelation, right, and how it manages to line up, I think, with what we're seeing now. And now people have been saying that for a long time. As long as there's been people looking for the return, there's been people trying to make it work, right? And I get that. And so early on, I think in my way back when I was about 17 or 18, I realized, it's after a lot of study of eschatology, that you probably wouldn't know it until you saw it. And so trying to figure it out really could lead you down some strange rabbit holes. And a lot of people over time have tried to force things, right? And that just leads to all kind of problems. So my take on it was, at the time, that while it seemed very clear that the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation were intrinsically linked, while Revelation specifically said, don't seal it up because the time is near. In Daniel, it says seal it up, right, until the time of the end, so that you wouldn't be able to understand it until it happened. And so my take on it was, you wouldn't really be able to fully understand Revelation until until Daniel is unlocked. Daniel 2, 7, 9, 13. So just let it go, right? Basically what I did. And then, maybe I was right, maybe not. But what I do see coming back in, right, is as I see things happening around that seem to match up with the things, and it changes the way you see it, right? It's like, oh, yeah, that looks right. Anyway, I've been meaning to do that for a while. And again, so don't mean to get sidetracked or go off on any tangents. However, I try to respond as best I can to the nudge of the Spirit, right? And speak about the things that are in my heart that week or during this time. And so there's obviously a lot of things going on in the world around us. And it's pretty easy, again, to see what's going on if you just take a look at the news. And we could do that pretty easily, I guess, if we just come here, bring up Google News. Here we go. Well, we'll piece with this, right? And so what did he say would be some of the signs, right? We can go, there are going to be, wars and rumors of wars. And I think that we definitely have that going on right now, right? Earthquake in diverse places. I think we can safely say, right, that there are earthquakes going on in diverse places and all over the place. And then, I started lining up the first, at least the first three or of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, seeming like it might be happening. And so as we watch these things, right, there are other things, though, that are a part of that. And we come back, of course, to where, again, the disciples asked Jesus, hey, what are going to be the signs of your return, right? And typically, you can go to Luke 12, 13, or Matthew, 24, basically is where you'll find that very well laid out. And I think it's always interesting to see the first thing that he says when they ask, what will be the sign, tell us when will these things happen and what is the sign of your coming in the end of the age. And the very first thing he says, right, is watch out, take care that no one deceives you. Right, for many will come in my name saying I'm Messiah. But the first thing he says, like, take care that no one deceives you. And it's so, again, it's fascinating to see and to watch in the world around us that we live now in a world that is so illusory and entirely built on lies that telling the truth is become anathema. Right, you can literally be locked up for it. Hello, Julian Assange. Right. Like insofar as I know, again, I don't want to hit a political hot button, but insofar as I know, what he's accused of is simply telling the truth. That's why they're mad, not because he lied, but because he told the truth. Clearly, that should be concerning. And as I have, been having conversations with people on many of the things going on around us, right? One of the big hot button topics is censorship, right? And I think I shouldn't have to point out that never in the history of history, even if you don't accept the history that we're given, at least the recent history that we can verify, never in the history of history has the people who've been wanting to censor things been the good guys, right? Never, because truth stands on its own, and if you have to legislate or control the narrative, then that means that you have a problem with the truth, right? So that's my take. And you're going to get my take. I guess I should reiterate that what you'll hear, following here is my take on some things. But I want to start, I'll get to the title page here in a minute. But some other things going on, I want to note, right, that things we see going on around us, including, right, this one. And so there was the Superb Owl happening today, right? The big bread and circuses. So that always gives me some concern because they keep, talking about all the security measures they take. And there certainly is a lot of, occult stuff pointing to issues there. And so I've always got my eyes open for that. But then we have today another, pew pew at a church in Houston. And first I thought, Lakewood, that sounds familiar. But of course it would be Joel Osteen's church. And, of course, he's a degenerate and apostate. He has nothing to do with God. He's just simply using his name to enrich himself. And that will carry on here. So apparently, again, the story goes, and I knew as soon as I saw it was going to be just, one of those distraction events. But here we go. I noticed this is early to come up, and I noted some things about this. So if you'll bear with me, hopefully this will play and you can hear it. I'll add some of this here. So this person supposedly is a eyewitness to it, right? And you'll hopefully notice some things as I did.
Hey there, guys. This young lady just came off a vehicle.
So she's a young lady. There's the first miss.
Evacuating the church.
We were escorted during the evacuation.
So they cannot speak truth, or they will burst instantly into flames. So, again, I'm not making a joke about her being mature, but she is not a young lady. Just to say that. All right. So, but I want you to see what she says and listen to what she says. And first, do you believe her? And a couple of things here, very interesting.
By SWAT team.
So first, I would ask if you would look at her demeanor. Does she look like somebody who has just been through a traumatic event where she was potentially had her life threatened? You can choose for you. Again, what I see here is I see no mucosa nervosa. There's no puffiness. There's no tears. There's no shakiness of the voice. There's no indication that we've had a fight or flight circumstance. There's no evidence of cortisol dissipation or adrenaline whatsoever.
By the police, the local Houston police, and also by the FBI.
So that's another interesting. So why would the FBI immediately show up? Now, usually, again, the FBI is called in for large events, right? Or if it becomes multi-state, right? Do they have jurisdiction in multi-state events or kidnappings, that sort of thing? But in this case, if the initial response is by the FBI, that immediately gets one of my eyebrows raised.
Saw and or heard.
Well, we were leaving the service, and Joel was meeting and greeting everybody right outside.
Okay, so one of the things to always note about these crisis thespians, is trauma thespians, right? Is that it's never specific. It's always generalities, and they will tell you how they felt. They're going to be very bad at giving you the picture. And I want you to notice here, she says that the pastor, right? So you know who he is. She wants to make sure you know that name, right? He was outside meeting and greeting, and what? She inserts herself into it. Watch this.
On the second floor where all this happened, and I was one of the last people to meet and greet with Joel, the pastor here, and I went into the ladies' room and went.
So after meeting him, she went to the ladies' room. I don't know, rub one out. I don't know. It seems, again, do you believe her? Because this sounds like this is. I got the exact vibes of somebody coming up to me at a gas station and telling me a story how they need gas to get to the airport or pick up their sister or whatever. It's a scam.
When I came out, I headed towards the nearest exit on the second floor.
So now listen closely to the verbiage used and think in your mind, who speaks this way when they things like, I headed to the nearest exit and active shooter. But people don't talk that way naturally, but they do when it's written down using buzzwords.
And I heard this like a bam, bam, like mechanical sounds, like it almost sounded like folding tables were being dismantled and dropped to the floor.
And it's interesting, again, you'll always find when they do these distraction events and they have the trauma thespians, they, again, describe very loosely and very ephemerally, like, oh, it was kind of like bam, bam, that nothing with detail. There's no detail here. It's just, I sort of heard this. And anyway, I don't mean to interrupt too much because there is a major bit that I want to get here.
And then there was like, but they were erratic. Okay, and then there was another set of like bam, bam, bam. And then all of a sudden it sounded, I stopped and I looked at the entrance and people were screaming and scattering. And I went, oh, no, this is not equipment being dismantled. There's something going on. And then I saw a gentleman, I'd say late 20s, early 30s, but I couldn't get a look at his face. But he was like standing like this, and it looked like a pistol because. And
again, so just to point out here, I want to say, do you believe her? Because it turns out, we can point this out, it was not a young man. In fact, it was a young lady and about a 4 or 5 year old child with her. So, witness?
It had a long pipe on it, okay?
Okay,
and it was like. And he was pointing.
So first she says pistol, but it had a long pipe on it. What? Like that? It looked like a pistol because it had a long pipe on it.
Not the opposite direction, but like at an angle to me.
You think he was one of the shooters or the shooter?
He had to have been because there was a gun.
Well, he had to have been, she says. And there was a gun. It looked like a pistol because it had a long pipe on it. And again, all proven wrong because now they're saying it was a single, it was one shooter, a female in her 20s with that had a toddler with her. And they say that she was deleted at the scene and that the child was wounded and is in critical condition. That's the last I heard. But keep going. There's more to this.
There was a gun in his hand, okay?
And he wasn't an officer?
No. He was dressed in normal clothes. I couldn't describe it because it happened so fast.
I couldn't describe it. See, that's a thing that often comes up. I couldn't really say. Why? Because you weren't there.
I just saw him, near the entrance, and he was standing like this, like almost, the feet apart, and he was like this. I mean, evidently that's where the...
I don't remember, but I'm sure if I let it play all the way to the end, which I hadn't yet, got all the way to the end, but almost invariably they'll say it's like in the movies. Right.
Shots were coming from.
I don't know how long you've attended Lakewood Church, but to have something like this happen
2
here.
weeks. 2 weeks. I just drove here from Los Angeles.
Oh, wait. oh, 2 weeks. I just got here from the capital of fakery, Los Angeles.
I've always wanted to come to this church. But you know what?
Just in time.
I've seen enough movies that I
there we
knew
go.
we weren't supposed to scatter. We needed to go.
I told you. I told you. They were going to mention movies. And then here's this next bit. I think it's coming up. that I just went, oh, isn't that interesting? And then I didn't listen to, but this is the part of
To the nearest kind of cover, like they have big pillars in there.
sorry to keep interrupting, but you'll also notice in these trauma thespian interviews that they are always coached by the interviewer, who's always saying, oh, you must have felt this way, or was it like this? And they feed them very leading questions, if not just give them the line.
So instead of going straight towards the shooter, I turned around and started running with the rest of the people. But then all of a
that's
sudden
funny.
there were very few people. And then I saw a room off to the side called New Beginnings, okay? And it was an info room I'd been to before. And one person was going
New
through,
Beginnings,
and
is
one
that
door was locked.
is that like a I don't know, New Beginnings? Is that like a New World Order? Is that like a I don't know, the big changeover, the big reset? And so then I went to a place, New Beginnings.
Locked, and I went, oh my God, I've got to get in that room.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other person opened it, and I followed them in. We hid about 10 of us, 10 adults in a closet, and there was one child in there. And no vent, but we were all praying. And
Here's the part.
We were thankful that
We were praying, okay, and thankful.
It could have been worse.
But you didn't know anything, right? So you're hidden, you're locked in a closet, but you're thankful that it could have been worse. But you don't know, like it's still ongoing. You're still hiding. So it gets even more ludicrous.
Casualty. We could have been shot.
Have you heard anything about anybody who may have been shot?
We just heard that there were 2 shooters.
Wrong. There was only one. Of course, but I mean, that's the narrative, right? That's the current narrative now.
One was a woman.
But there's always, you'll always see this, that there's always confusion at first, whether there's single or multiple shooters, always, in all these events. The first report says multiples, and then they kind of tidy it up to one, always. But now it's going to get interesting here.
And one was a man. I didn't see the woman, and I didn't get a good look at the guy.
But she just said earlier, he was dressed in plain clothes. It looked like a pistol because it had a long pipe. She said she was just feet away from him, but she didn't get a good look.
Okay? I just know that he was holding a gun in his hand, and it was extended, and he was pointing it towards the crowd.
Are you willing to share any of your prayer?
See, that's interesting. Like, they usually keep that. They cut people off in, in like after sporting events when they say, "I would like to give all honor and glory to God." They censor that. This guy is asking, "Share your prayer." No. But now watch closely. This is just, what did you pray?
What did you pray?
Oh, absolutely. We pray,
She fumbles. Let's give her a good chance here. What did you pray? Absolutely. Okay, so what did you pray?
What did you pray?
Oh, absolutely. We pray, God our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy names. But we also...
hallowed be thy names. That's the Lord's Prayer, or at least a bad beginning of it, which would indicate, usually if you're going to go to that, you're going to be Catholic because you think that is, you have to pray the words, right? Okay, so hallowed be thy names, and she very clearly doesn't know it. She's trying her best to come up with something here. Now listen to the next thing she says, and this is when I had to stop.
I'm a prayer warrior, so for me to pray is our greatest weapon.
Oh, you're a prayer warrior, but you don't even know the Lord's Prayer, and you pull it out at a time when it would be the most inappropriate time. Not Dad save us, not Dad be with these people. No, our Father. I can't quite remember it. Let me get my rosary out. Yeah, this is nonsense. Anyway, just so you know. Just so you know, it's not real. So I mean, yes, bad things are happening, but that's what we're being hit with. Okay. So, let's move on then to the topic of the day. So back to J-Bro. He says, so take care that no one deceives you, right? Many will come in my name, and they'll deceive many. right? Hear wars, rumors of wars, right? Famines, earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains, right? They'll hand you over for persecution and they will kill you. You'll be hated by all nations because of my name. Then many will take offense, betray one another, and hate one another. But he who endures till the end will be delivered. And we see this all over, Matthew 24:13, he who endures to the end will be delivered. Matthew 10:22, he that endures to the end will be delivered. Mark 13, he that endures to the end will be delivered. All through Revelation, he that endures to the end. And then notice this, enduring, what does that look like, right? James 1, I always go to the book of James. Here we go. James chapter 1, verse 2. Consider it a great joy, my brothers, when you experience various trials. You can also say temptations. Knowing the testing of your faith produces what? Endurance. But endurance must do its complete work, so you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. So if you are wondering why things are so hard right now, he's preparing you. So the testing of your faith produces endurance. And he that endures to the end will be delivered. So it is no surprise, it should come as no surprise, the wearing down of the saints, that you should be under duress. And but I also want to share this. So one of the things that's happening as a result of the health stuff, as I've been doing lots of research as I do on all kinds of things, right? And certainly looking into environmental factors, that all the things. And what one of the things that I came to in this, right, is that there is right now, we talk about the pandemic of the bug, but there is a pandemic. Let's see. I should have had this all up here, but there is a pandemic of loneliness, and it is killing people. It literally is killing people. So how I got there, right? A number of different things. One of the things is anesthesiologist, which again is a very weird thing. They don't really know the exact mechanisms of most of the drugs that they give us these days, but they do, kind of know within some boundaries kind of what to expect. And so, general anesthesia for surgery is a very risky and very strange thing. They keep you very close to dead, just alive for quite a long time. And there are a lot of things that can affect that, and they have to be very careful. Not everybody responds the same, and there are things that happen as you slip into and out of consciousness that are also a part of your psychological and emotional makeup. That's part of it, right? So they look for things like, for example, sleep apnea. If you have sleep apnea, that can be dangerous because you're falling asleep and your airway can close, and of course that's going to be bad. But they also look for things like depression, right? Why? Because people who are suffering from chronic depression, when they're in that state of almost dead and they try to bring you back, they don't want to come back. They're happier under, and they don't want to come back, and it creates a problem. And I heard literally just earlier today a anesthesiologist saying that loneliness, when he started seeing loneliness as a feature, it causes problems because they don't have a reason to continue, right? And he thought it understandable and perhaps apropos that he had a patient who was going to have a knee replacement surgery. And just before the surgery, he kind of went through the process with him. And they just want to double check everything. And he realized that this person might be problematic because he was very depressed and lonely. And he asked him, what he's looking forward to after the surgery, like what, and he's like, nothing. And what? And finds out that, the guy's fairly elderly, he's in his 70s, and he and his friends would go walking recently. And of course, his knee had been troubling him, and so his whole point in getting the knee surgery was so he could continue to do that. But in the time that it took for all this to go through and get ready, it's about a year long, he had lost several of those friends to a variety of things, and so now his whole point in doing it was gone, and it just didn't matter to him anymore. And so while he said he understood that one of the most shocking things to him is that the group, the demographic that is most affected right now are young people under 29. And I think I can I'd say explain that, but I can take a quick shot, right? Certainly social media is isolating. It pretends to connect you, but what it does is actually isolate you. It's a pretend interpersonal connection, but that has some of the features of a connection, but is not, right? And you can interact with a bot and never know, right? It has none of the consequences of or features. It has no. You can't get a hug, So you can't have that same group dynamic in the virtual space. And so, but here we go. Health risks of social isolation and loneliness, right? And this is, again, from secular humanism. These are people who have nothing to do with spirituality whatsoever. But here we go. Heart disease and stroke, type 2 diabetes, depression and anxiety, addiction, suicidality and self-harm, dementia, and early death. And why? What does it do to your body? Well, here's one of the things, right, is that you suffer fight or flight. And they don't often explain this, but again, it's a fairly easy thing to follow, is that when you're lonely, right, and especially if you're lonely but around people, those people then are a threat to you, right? You cannot trust them, and so you naturally go into, again, a little bit of adrenaline, fight or flight, cortisol, as a result, when adrenaline begins to break down in your body. And so it can increase blood pressure, right? But also it can cause long-term low-level inflammation, right? And so this inflammation then can cause all kinds of the problems, right? So if we go through these negative side effects of loneliness, how does loneliness chase a person? You can look for all this stuff, but again, mental conditions, high blood pressure, heart disease, cognitive decline, anxiety, depression, weakened immune system, right? All the things, and ultimately up to and including, self-deletion. And it happens, right? And so, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm so glad to see you guys here. I had, for some reason, the chat was set to top chat and it didn't move, never moved. And it didn't show any, I saw that a couple of people were here from the count, but hello. Hey, Droid and Annie and Mama Love, how are you? It's so great to see you. So, I've been, as I talk to people, right, although the number is fewer these days, I think it's the number one thing that I face that people are struggling with is loneliness, abject loneliness, and that leads to despair, right? Yeah, Florida, small quake. Yeah, exactly. So it's all over, and but yeah, the kids, like the under 29 is upwards of like 30% indicate abject loneliness and the isolation, right? And in part, it's caused by the societal changes, right? And certainly social engineering. We can see it happen. Definitely the rise and saturation of social media, which I call anti-social media, is part. Certainly that silly, 6 feet, 2 meter, the social distancing nonsense that there, never was any scientific evidence for, except for the opposite, scientific evidence that it will harm you. but nothing that it would be of any assistance in what they claim to be trying to stop the spread of. So we have this terrible, terrible epidemic of loneliness, and it affects everyone. And it is in part, I think, one of the root causes of this collapse of society that we're seeing. But it's also, I think, one of the weapons of warfare being used against those who are those who are friends of the Creator. That he explicitly said that you're going to be ostracized, and there will come a time, in fact, that those who they will kill you, thinking that they're doing God a favor, right? And so I see this more probably than any other thing as I, email and talk to people, and thank you to those who have reached out recently. I got just a lovely email yesterday, and it's so encouraging. Like I never know, right? Like whether it's helpful or not. I don't want to do this just to hear myself talk, right? And I don't want to be here if it's pointless, but when people tell me this, it's helpful for them, then I will come back, right? I will sacrifice anything for that, right? Just to try to be in some way comfort, right? Or like I said, a glass of cool water for the weary traveler. So thank you for the very kind email. And and Andrew and Andrea, if you're listening, thank you more than I can express. You guys make me cry all the time. They're such great kids and so faithful to Dad. And I love to see when people, I can just tell that, right? They're dead set on Dad. They're going with everything they have. And it's such a contrast to those that I see who, it's like an accessory. It's a cloak that they put on. It clearly isn't, not only isn't a part of who they are, but it becomes a disgrace, right? To those who actually follow the way, because it's like, don't be on my team, right? Don't, I think, was that the second commandment? Don't take my name in vain, right? And again, that's been kind of, I think, changed to people think it's don't swear, right? But no, don't take on my name in vain, right? You don't call yourself by my name and then make me look like an asshole. But I found the title. I thought it's kind of cute. It was just in my it was in my head. This O Solo Mio, and I recognize that the original song is actually Solo Mio, which is the sun, right? Literally my sunshine, right? But when I put it into Latin, right? Oh my soul, yeah, exactly. And but when I go kind of even more like with Greek, then I can think solo, like again, mono is one, singular, like mono and mono, but solo means alone, right? So for example, you're flying solo, you're by yourself, right? You're traveling solo, you are alone. So not just singular, but alone. One of the things that he promised us, right, is that he would never leave us or forsake us even until the end. But it is often, especially when you're under extreme oppression, right, and the wearing down of the saints as we are now, we come to this, the state that we're in now, right, it is sometimes difficult to hear and to feel the presence of the Spirit. And I saw a great post today from a community post from Jesus Freak Computer Geek, and I don't know if you know that person, another YouTuber, and well, we don't know each other that well. We just kind of encountered each other once in a while. But I saw this come up today. He's got often has some good stuff. And this is a story that's told in 1 Kings about Elijah and Ahab, who was the king of Israel, Jerusalem at that time, told Jezebel, that's his evil wife. You heard of it being, a Jezebel spirit. She was real bad. We can cover that later. But so Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done. And this is right after he had confronted the prophets of Baal and challenged them and said, let's see whose God is the real deal. And so they each built an altar and put their bullock on it. And he said, all right, you guys go first, right? You get first crack at this. So call on your God to set this thing on fire. So no tinderbox, you don't get to light it up. Call on your God to light that thing up. And they went crazy. They went, whipping themselves and cutting themselves and doing their summoning and doing their crazy sex magic and everything that they could do to get it going. And he was mocking them. I mean, he was mocking them bad. He even says, "Where's your God?" It's hilarious because he said, "Does he have a woman? Right? He can't get up because he's with a woman, or did he have to go take a dump?" He says that. It's hilarious. He's mocking them. And then after he gives them, hours to try, he goes, "All right, my turn. Yeah, I'll sit down. Shut up." So he then, he's got the bullock up there, but he then digs a moat around the thing and has them come and pour 10 buckets of water, big old 30-gallon things of water on it to, get it all nice and wet. And it filled up the moat. And then he prayed and he said, "Hey, Dad, honor us, right? Honor your name here." And boom, plasma from the sky, and not only burns up the bullock, but the altar and the water and everything. And they were like, "What? And then he slew them. Yes, that's right. He took a sword and slew them. So again, not the fluffy bunny Jesus stuff, but this is Elijah, but he certainly not a soy boy. So this is immediately following that. That's the context. Ahab told Jezebel, again, the evil queen, all that Elijah had done, and also how he had executed all the prophets with the sword, because, he did that. Then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah saying, "So let the gods do to me, and more also, if I don't make your life as the life of one of them by tomorrow at this time." I mean, she really, let the gods do whatever they want to me if I don't turn you into a pile of jello by this time tomorrow. She was after him. And when he saw that, he arose and ran for his life. And he went to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah, and he left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and he came and he sat down under a broom tree, and he prayed that he might die. And he said, "It is enough. Now, Lord, take my life, for I am no better than my fathers." Imagine it. After this unbelievable, supernatural victory, right? I mean, imagine, just imagine the scene that this had come. And but immediately he now fears for his life, and he's like, just take me now. I'm done. Boy, do I understand where he's coming from, right? Then as he lay and slept under a broom tree, suddenly an angel touched him and said, "Arise and eat." And he looked, and there by his head was a cake baked on coals and a jar of water. So he ate and drank and lay down again. And the angel of the Lord came back a second time and touched him and said, "Hey, arise and eat, because the journey is too great for you." Wow, I want some of that supernatural food, right? I've had some supernatural experience, but I haven't gotten to actually eat the supernatural food yet. Looking forward to it. So he arose and ate and drank, and he went in the strength of that food for 40 days and 40 nights, as far as Horeb, the mountain of God. And there he went into a cave and spent the night in that place. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" And I find this really interesting because it immediately evoked the story of Job. And as you remember, Job is the oldest extant book of the Bible. It was written, in fact, before the Pentateuch. But he has this calamity fall him in one day, and in all of it, you say, I was out with he has a servant come running in and say, I was out, tending sheep, and the lightning came down and killed all the sheep and all the other shepherds, and I alone, right, to come to tell the tale. And he hadn't even stopped speaking, and then somebody else comes in and says, I was with the camels, and then the Assyrians came in and they put everybody to the sword, they killed everybody, but I alone am here. And this happened over and over, including the house that his children were in. And one of the servants said, everybody was killed, and I alone have come. But here he is. He says, what are you doing here, Elijah? And he said, see, I have been very zealous for the Lord God of hosts. For the children of Israel have forsaken your covenant, and torn down your altars, and killed your prophets with a sword, and I alone am left. And they seek to take my life. However, there's a little bit of butthurt in there, kind of like Jonah. Then he said, go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore into the mountains and broke the rocks in pieces before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. And so it was when Elijah heard it that he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood in the entrance of the cave. And suddenly the voice came to him and said, what are you doing here, Elijah? He said, I have been very zealous for the Lord God of hosts, because the children of Israel have forsaken your covenant, torn down your altars, killed your prophets with a sword, and I alone am left, and they seek to take my life. You know the feeling? Then the Lord said to him, go, return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus, and when you arrive, anoint Hazael as king over Syria, and also you shall anoint Jehu, the son of Nishmi, as king over Israel. I love Jehu. He was apparently quite a chariot driver, and to this day, driving like Jehu. It's a little before my time, but it's still an expression I remember. And Elisha, the son of Shaphat, Abel, Manolah, you shall anoint as a prophet in your place. It shall be that whoever escapes the sword of Hazael, Jehu will kill, and whoever escapes the sword of Jehu, Elisha will kill. Yet I have reserved 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him. But even our friend Elijah, having just had this supernatural experience and claiming an enormous victory for the Lord of hosts, suddenly fears for his life. And it is afraid and is alone. And I trust that you know that feeling as well, that you've been alone. I know that another aspect that of people that I talk to is, those who have a partner who is not following the way, and that can be sometimes even lonelier. Not that you necessarily become antagonistic, although they sometimes are antagonistic if you insist on following, in what they see as an invisible voice, right, in your head, to do things that seem unusual and risky. And that can create conflict. But even when that is not the case, and there is no other conflict, the inability to share that deepest space can make you feel very isolated and alone. But I think it's very salient, right? This point that it harms you physically, right? Is that you are constantly on high alert. It's not just this sense of loneliness. It is the sense of loneliness without being alone, that you're surrounded by people who may be a threat to you, right? And why I am so struck by this need the last couple of weeks, right, to ask us to sort of join hands with each other and to encourage and support one another as best we're able, especially in this area, right? Reach out to one another and stay connected. He said that they will know you are my servants, but by your love for one another. And I certainly have come, as I said last week, to think of each of you as not just for friends, but family, right? We are in Dad's family, and we look out for and support one another. and to that end, I would, I think, also like to ask. So last week, I showed you my list to pray for, and certainly if you have items that you want prayer for, whether specific or just unspoken, just definitely contact me. You know how by now. But what I want to do today, I think, is just ask specifically to ask you to pray for. I'm going to pick two here. We'll call it JK. So that hopefully that'll be an easy mnemonic for you. JK, just kidding, but not kidding. So two people I'd just ask you to pray for. I'm just going to give the first names, Jane and Kevin. And again, I won't go any further just to say, in fact, I don't know all the specifics other than just ask Dad this week, every time that you pray, every time that you comes to mind, right? Just speak their name and with good intent and ask Dad to comfort and guide and be with them, right? To lift them up this week. And let's see if we can get a good report on this. I know that both could use it. I know, I can. And certainly I'm not going to stop, praying for everybody on my list. And again, don't stop praying for those on your list. But if you could just add Jane and Kevin this week, I'd be much obliged. They're good people. And just make some noise, right? Just get in front of Dad. And I promise it will bless you. You don't have to trust me, but I'm saying my experience is you will find joy in that. I had more that I wanted to bring. I see it here because I have these tabs open. But I think I just want to, again, reiterate that the one who endures to the end will be delivered, right? He that endures to the end. And that doesn't imply an easy slide, right? An easy journey. Endure sounds like, trouble. In fact, endurance, the fact or power of enduring an unpleasant or difficult process or situation without giving away. And how do we get that? Experiencing various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. So count it all joy when in the midst of these trials and tribulations. And again, I know it sounds weird and it's counterintuitive, but almost everything in the kingdom is. I mean, you cannot outgive Dad. The more you give, the more He brings back to you. The more you love, the more it comes back to you. When you have the least amount of available time, if you give to Him instead, suddenly you have plenty of time. I don't know how it works. It just does. But to that end, again, I don't want to hold you up or keep you here forever tonight. But I would, again, just if you would be so kind to speak Jane and Kevin in front of Dad this week, I'd really appreciate it. And I thank you so much for the kind words of everyone and your encouragement, and emails and just notes of support. It's immensely impactful. Because again, I never, like I said, my purpose in doing this really is to help if I can, and just to be faithful to Dad. Clearly I'm not making any moves to grow the channel or do anything crazy. It's just not, it's not the intent. I mean, I would love as many people that are guided to come here. I want the right people here always, right? I just want those for whom it will be beneficial. And if it can be, then I'm pleased. So just for me, it's a sacrifice of praise and some way that I can try to serve him, because I have very little other ways to do it right now. Like, my legs have been literally cut out from underneath me, and I can't do so little. But at least I can, do this, and my hands don't shake so much that I can't still noodle a little bit. And, it's not great, and there's always ample number of mistakes. But again, it's just, prayerful meditation before the Creator. So anyway, with that, I think I'll let you go. But I just wanted to say again, thank you so much for being here and for your continued prayers and support. And if you would again support one another and encourage one another, I think it would be helpful, right? Helpful for everyone. So anyway, I'll leave you with a little of the old tunage again, and we'll pick it up again next week, perhaps sooner. I think on some of those current events thing, I really am gonna have to start doing like at least a couple of times a week, like deal with that specifically. And then it's also been requested, and I feel it. I feel the truth in that, is to pick back up doing ancient wisdom, just reading scripture over noodles and spending a little time that way. So just to give kind of everybody a safe space, right? To be, safe space. I hate that word, but you know what I mean. Just where nothing. Well, it's just all good. Anyway, I hope you have a lovely weekend, and that all your heart's desires are met. Be well. Love you guys. Take care. Close my